I am calling this meeting of the Convention and Visitors Bureau to order at 5:33 p.m. First item on the list, public comments. We don't have any.
There are no public comments that were submitted to be discussed or shared with this meeting.
All right. Next item on the list is considering approval of previous minutes from June 15th.
Yes, and ages ago. It was the last time we convened together.
That is a minute. Has everyone read over those? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Josh was the motion. I think Robert, did you second?
Yes.
I keep pointing at people. You can't see me.
We can see you pointing.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, next we are just whizzing through staff comments.
Should we vote on the minutes?
Yeah. Kristen, go ahead and have folks vote on the minutes.
Oh yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, perfect. Now staff comments.
Okay. I'm just gonna, since we haven't met together in it seems like ages, I wanted to kind of just catch you all up on a few different things, and then maybe get your all's feedback on some stuff as well. Obviously, this has been, especially for tourism stuff, this has been, the weirdest year of all time. Nothing has been normal about any of this stuff. In terms of hotel motel revenue for the year, obviously that's been down, and we don't have our fourth quarter revenue numbers in yet. So July, August, September, we don't have those totals to work with yet, but we're guessing that for the year will probably be somewhere around the 20% less than what we had hoped for the year. So that's a chunk of money, but it's in terms of getting to the end of the year. I think last time we met, I think Leroy explained how some of that works in terms of there are some city departments that have fund balances, and the hotel motel fund is one of those, where we started the year with a fund balance, which means over the course of time, there might have been more revenue than what was projected for that year, or certain amounts of money didn't get spent for that year. And so instead of going back into a general fund, it just stays in the hotel motel revenue fund. And so the fund balance that we started with this year was more than enough to make up for a 20% shortfall for the year. And also we've had the fact that we didn't have some events that occurred. That was also an amount of money that we didn't have to spend in terms of just marketing and promotion type stuff. We had to be super conservative for the year. And so even though we're gonna probably have somewhere around the 20% less money for the year, we've been able to make that work. Does anybody have any questions about that process, or how the hotel motel funding functions or works? My hand gesture is helping.
It's
Cool.
making me laugh.
Oh, good. And just to go back one step further, the hotel motel funding, like 2/3 of that 4% tax on hotel stays, 2/3 of it goes to tourism, 1/3 goes to the parks department. So whenever you hear about hotel motel funding, it doesn't all go to tourism. The parks department gets to do some cool stuff with some of that. What they do with it, I have no idea. I don't keep up. It's all I can do to keep up with tourism stuff. So
Build cool
park
splash
stuff,
pads.
Yeah, actually, no, it's splash pads, which is, I like to say that everything is tourism related in Guthrie because no matter, oh, sorry, I leaned up and like stuck my face in the camera.
He got real excited.
Right? Like everything, every department at the city that does stuff, it all affects tourism in some either primary or secondary way. But that specific project at Mineral Wells with all, splash pads and gazebos and all the stuff that they've done there, that is a huge like tourism benefit for folks that are, especially now when so many folks are just looking for like a day trip somewhere or a weekend getaway. Little things like, it's not a little thing, but something like the Mineral Wells project is a really big deal for those folks who are needing to get up to, get away from Oklahoma City for the day or down from Stillwater. Verla and I get tons of phone calls from people who are just trying to like escape for the afternoon or for the day. And so the more stuff like that pops up, it makes it an awful lot easier for us to answer those questions about what do I do for the afternoon in Guthrie. So yes. Let's see. Let me think. Okay, looking forward to the next budget year, which starts October 1st. Budgeting for tourism dollars at this point is kind of like this mysterious guesswork. So basically, for budgeting purposes, like the finance office and in our tourism office, we've basically said we're going to just like hope that it's flat from this year to next year. We don't know, and there's literally no way to predict next week at this point because the world is just a bizarre, crazy place. But we're fingers crossed that it'll be similar, like what we budgeted last year is what we're budgeting for FY21. That's going to be, we're going to function a little bit differently though, in terms of like month to month, we're just going to have to be a little bit more careful in terms of, okay, here's what revenue we saw come in this month. So this gives us a little bit, like, we're going to be a little more intentional month to month about how we spend those promotional dollars and marketing stuff. Whereas in years past, we felt like we had a little more freedom to say, oh, sure, we're for the 3 months from now, we're planning on doing this. Like this year, we're probably not going to be able to do a whole lot of 4 months from now, we know we're going to do this, because 4 months from now, who knows what things are going to look like. But also, as I'm jibber jabbering, feel free to either wave your hands to stop and ask a question, or do what Rebecca did. Rebecca typed in hello into the chat box there. So Rebecca is familiar with the chat function in Zoom. I will say that in terms of hotel and motel revenue and how things are going right this second, here's a little update. Verla, in her conversations with the hotel folks in this past week, a vast majority of them have communicated that things have really started to get more, I guess, Verla, like steady and back to normal were kind of the phrases that you heard, correct? Verla's shaking her head.
Correct. I'll put you.
So in terms of the I-35 hotels, the feedback we're getting is positive. 6 months ago, it was kind of like we didn't know if things were just going to fall off an absolute cliff, or when they might get back up out of the sea of despair. But as of right now, the I-35 hotels seem to be in a pretty positive place. Right now, the bed and breakfasts are also in a really good spot. simply because the movie that's being filmed in Guthrie right now, the Reagan film, basically has booked up every single room at almost all the bed and breakfasts through probably the beginning of November. So that's another good example of how the film industry really has an effect on, especially the bed and breakfast. It kind of spills over a little bit into the chain hotels, but mostly that centers on the bed and breakfast. So right now, in terms of occupancy at both the hotels and the bed and breakfast, things feel really good with a caveat. Here's the caveat. With the bed and breakfast situation right now, an interesting element of that is that, and I'm still learning how some of this stuff works. I just learned that for when a hotel or when a bed and breakfast kind of changes over from like I'm renting you a room for the night versus we have a month and a half, 2 month long-term rental for someone, that can and usually does shift out of a situation where they charge hotel motel tax. It kind of shifts from being a bed and breakfast to a rental property. So even though that's awesome that their space is full, even though it's awesome that they're doing business and they don't have any vacancies, one little downside is that we don't see the hotel motel revenue from those proprietors. Now, that's just kind of how it works. Hooray for them for not having vacancies, but that means that even though it's awesome and it's great for the community and for Guthrie, we don't necessarily see the hotel motel revenue to the tourism and parks departments. Does that make sense? I just learned that like yesterday. So I was like, oh, that's really super interesting and a bummer.
Hey, Justin,
Yes.
is it just the B&Bs or is it the hotels? Do they go to a rental for 30 days?
I think, I don't know the answer to that question like 100%, but I think that once someone stays longer than, so 30 days and longer, you can shift that arrangement to a long-term rental versus like a hotel, right, normal hotel stay. I don't know how that works with the big chain hotels.
I will say that I was the front office manager at a Holiday Inn Express, and after that 30-day mark is whenever we stopped charging that tax. So I think that applies across the board. I won't say that definitely, but
Cool.
yeah, that was my experience.
This is an educational meeting. So
That's why you're on the board, Kristen. Awesome.
it's very helpful.
Ta-da! I do. Oh wait, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say I had only like a loosely related question, so it can wait.
Okay. The only other thing I was going to say was that it's up to the individual proprietor whether they want to make that shift or not. I guess they don't have to go from a hotel motel tax night by night situation to a long-term rental lease agreement. So it's not an automatic thing. It just depends on whether the proprietor chooses to shift or not. Kristen, go ahead with your question.
Okay, like I said, this is loosely related, but I think I'm just wondering, so, I mean, right now it's kind of a freeze with a lot of like the major tourist like events and attractions. And I'm kind of curious if there's like any projects or anything as a board, like we could be thinking about to move ourselves or the board further in some of our goals that like don't necessarily rely on that while we have some downtime.
Yeah, no. So that's a really good question. And I'm gonna go ahead and skip down my notes to go ahead and, since you asked it. Yeah, so the big events, this year the Territorial Christmas Foundation isn't doing their typical traditional events like Victorian Walk and the Christmas Parade. And obviously, Bluegrass Festival is not happening next month. Going into 2021, 89ers celebration. I know that they're hoping to have 89ers stuff next year. Everybody's kind of hoping at this point, but I do think that I'd love to be able to look at some ways in which the tourism department can kind of try to plan some small COVID-friendly activity event kind of things that help kind of bridge that gap, getting us to the point where those events the bigger events are happening again. Obviously, we're not a gigantic department with unlimited people hours. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think I'd love to hear your all's ideas on, if you have like creative ideas on what we could possibly do, and ways that, I know this board has always kind of functioned as more of like a, come together and meet kind of thing to look over, like, whether it's event support funding, whatever else. But if there are opportunities where we can, do more of like, if it's organizing volunteers to help with, some small COVID-friendly events between now and 6 months from now, I think that would be fantastic and super worthwhile. Even if it just gives us stuff that we can keep Guthrie in front of people's eyeballs between now and whether it's 89ers or next year's Red Brick Nights or whatever happens in the future. Coming up with ideas for what we can do, I think it's going to be super important. So, did I answer your question? Or did I avoid a question?
No, I think you answered it.
Cool.
Do you want us chiming in on that now?
Heck yeah, chime.
I think, and obviously I'm a little biased since I ride with you, but it seems to me that we are, through your efforts and the bike station and all of that, like that seems to be pretty low-hanging fruit and can be done in a relatively appropriate social distancing manner. People are coming here and riding that don't live in Guthrie. I mean, what, like 5 of us that ride in that thing are from Guthrie, yeah. 5 or 6. And so it seems to me that community who is already healthy and it's on the radar. And I think we could easily do some type of social distancing friendly, maybe it's a race, maybe it's just a fun race, where or a get together. But I don't know, you guys have gotten so much wonderful momentum with that and have local support through local business owners already behind it, that it seems like that's some pretty low hanging fruit that I think you could do. And you just limit the numbers. There's a marketing sense of creating demand through scarcity. And I think that you could limit the entries or a number of people who could participate, and you would see an increase in participation. And then you do that throughout the year. It's like Midwest, right? Like, Mid-South, right? You don't know if you're going to get in, right? Sure. And a lot of people make a lot of effort to try to make it on there to do that. And I'm not saying we create a 100-mile bike race, but maybe there's something we could do.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Rebecca mentioned something about costumes on bicycles. I like that. And then, no, was that Kristen? Oh, Kristen said color run with bikes. Yeah, so like, if you're not familiar with what Josh was talking about, for the past few years, there's been, except for the super cold months, there's been a weekly group bicycle ride that for the most part, a majority of the folks who participate are not Guthrie people. And in this past Thursday night, I think there was 21, 22 folks who showed up and rode together. And like Josh said, I think there were like 4 of us who were from Guthrie. And so that's just like one of those, 22 people is not a gigantic group of folks, but it is people who are not from Guthrie making a regular trip up to town. So yeah, the more things like that, maybe in trying to leverage on things like that, I think is going to be super important. And Josh mentioned the bicycle repair station. F&M Bank sponsored. Basically, it's kind of like a kiosk kind of thing where folks, either Guthrie residents or bicycle tourists or whoever, can utilize that bicycle repair station for minor repairs, putting air in their tires, that kind of stuff.
Tightening bars.
Yes.
And I think the other thing too about the cycling, which is nice, is as someone who used to live in Fort Collins, Colorado, or Crested Butte or Durango, where cycling is part of the culture there, people move there to be a part of that. And I think as a real driver for people to not just come visit, but to choose Guthrie as a place of residence, if you're a like-minded, outdoor, fitness-oriented person, and you know that in my town, if I were to move there, I could be 5 minutes away from gravel, which is a lot safer place to ride than the road. And there's a community culture around that. That can be an incentive for someone. And that may drive them to say, hey, you know what? I am going to go ahead and move up to Guthrie opposed to living in Edmond or Stillwater or wherever they end up living. So I think that's something in a long-term city growth perspective that has a lot of potential value.
Yeah, I think that even before the pandemic stuff all broke loose, I think people were looking for communities where they could, like outdoor activity is kind of a necessity. Nobody moves anywhere that doesn't have outdoor activities available to them. And so, which is a perfect transition to another thing I had out here to talk about was like not just the cycling, but all the outdoor stuff in Guthrie has really taken off. Liberty Lake and Guthrie Lake specifically, I know that the day use fees that Lake Patrol collects from both of the lakes. The reports I've been seeing is this has been the busiest those 2 lakes have maybe ever been. We've talked about, and we've started putting together some promotional video stuff. Aaron's been working on some things to help promote the lakes more, but at the same time, like the lakes are packed.
Do you think that the paddle boats, is that what they're called? That
Yes.
lady that rents those out, do you think that that's helping that?
I think it's a part of it for sure. There's been Becky Rycroft is her name, and she's been out on Guthrie Lake with the stand-up paddle boarding.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out there almost every weekend paddle boarding.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. It takes way more coordination than I'm terrified of it for some reason. I think it's because I'm like a giraffe in terms of coordination. A baby giraffe is what I am.
Well, you can still sit on it if you don't have to stand. You can still go pretty fast.
Isn't that embarrassing to be someone who just sits on a stand-up paddleboard?
No, I didn't stand up on mine until like the 4th or 5th time I went out. You better believe I was speed cruising around.
You can kneel on them too.
What was that?
You can kneel on them too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So are you seeing other folks out there doing that as well at Guthrie Lake?
She's been pretty busy. She's always had a group whenever we go out there in the evening, and I I see people like in little boats and kayaks or whatever. It seems really busy.
Cool.
Yeah.
So on a state level, Justin, we're experiencing the highest rate of fishing licenses sold in over a decade. We had more participants in spring turkey season pull turkey hunting licenses than have happened in numerous years. The bicycle industry, Justin, as you know, is having one of the largest growth periods it's had nationwide, to the extent that bikes are hard to find. The outdoor industry as a whole is experiencing a similar boom to what they saw in 2007 during the last recession. Outdoor industry typically flourishes during those times, but in general, I think the industry was a little more prepared this time. It's seemingly of how do we capture those people for the long term, and one of the things that happens when you take away people's ability to participate in their normalcy is they start figuring out how do they become self-sufficient to entertain themselves. And I think that more than anything, that's what we're finding. Not only is, as the wildlife department's currently saying, the outdoors are always open, it's not being limited by pandemic restrictions. But they're also, people are feeling better, right? This is a pretty long period of time where people have not been allowed to get back to quote unquote normal. And now new habits are being created. So how do we, I think you're spot on. How do we leverage those new habits to our benefit?
Oh, Josh, you mentioned like hunting. I don't know the first thing about. Like, is there some way of Guthrie? Like, is that something that Guthrie should look at in terms of like tourism and how we could attract? Is that something that happens around these parts? I don't know anything about hunting.
No, I mean, so we don't have public land super close, but we do have OLAP properties in Logan County, which is a walk-in program that the wildlife department started. So it allows a hunter or fisherman, a licensed hunter or fisherman, you can go onto their website, and they're privately owned properties that are getting a tax credit for opening up their land to licensed hunters and fishermen to participate in whatever pursuit they deem they're going to allow on their property. So for some, it's just turkey hunting. For some, it's you can come fish my ponds. For others, it's deer hunting, it's quail hunting, it's and all of that's online. But we do have quite a few in Logan County, more than for geographically close to a city. We have a pretty high number of OLAP properties that are pretty darn close to Guthrie itself.
So it wouldn't be super far-fetched to say that somebody could like come to Guthrie, stay in Guthrie, and then go out to whatever destination they were going to. Hunting.
And hunt those public properties, yeah. And the wildlife department is right now is about to launch a new initiative to really expand upon how they're promoting OLAP. So I'm sure there would even potentially be some wildlife department funds to help promote that if that's something we were trying to do.
Cool. It was OLAP?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see.
Justin, just a quick question. Do we have any assessment on what's happening on the disc golf arena?
That's a really great question. I haven't kept up with, I haven't heard from the main guy who kind of like the main volunteer that takes care of that stuff. I haven't heard from him in a while. I know that the disc golf courses all over central Oklahoma closed for quite a while. And then when Guthrie opened back up, I haven't heard any feedback from those folks, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I need to.
Okay, I was just wondering if they had any tournament scheduled, because I know in the past, before COVID, whenever they had a tournament, they would sell out all of their spots, if you will, their tee times, if you will, just very, very quickly. I didn't know if that had come back online or not.
They have not. They haven't had any of their like bigger organized tournaments. Something that I didn't realize was a thing until just before pandemic stuff. Like the disc golf folks, pre-pandemic, they would get together like every week on a certain night of the week out at Highland Park at the disc golf course, and they had like a weekly tournament where they would, every person who was there would throw in like $5, and whoever won took the pot of money home with them. So it's kind of like a weekly impromptu disc golf tournament / gambling exercise, which I didn't realize was a thing until a few months ago. But I'm glad you mentioned that, Mayor. I need to holler at them and see what things kind of feel like with the disc golf world.
So on the disc golf world, the pro tour in the U.S. is actually still going on right now, and they are traveling around. There's not a lot of people watching like there, but they're happening. Tournaments are happening. They're wearing face masks when they're around each other, but it's a pretty low touch thing. It's like real golf, so they can social distance pretty well. I would think that would be, I've played most of the courses in Oklahoma, and Guthrie does have one of the better city courses in the state, in my opinion. And particularly with the changes that have been made and the additions of the signs and so on and so forth, I think that there would be an opportunity there. There used to be a tournament. They did it intentionally when it was cold in the city. I don't know if it still happens, but it was a doubles tournament. And when I was in college and age and high school, it was pretty big. And these guys love to go do it. They don't care if it's cold, they'll like gear up and put their sweaters and coats on and still go out there and do it. And there may be a winter opportunity for the city to, get involved in a tournament.
Let's see. I think Kristen mentioned something about a 5K, like any kind of thing, like those kind of activities, like 5Ks, different things, even if they're not, a 500-person event. I think those are things that we need to start looking at to get us to when the big events are happening again. Another thing that's been really big for us for years now, the film industry really is a tourism function. We typically don't think of film crews as tourists, but they are people from outside our community who are coming to Guthrie on a regular basis. And especially now that they've kind of figured out how to make movies again, like with COVID-19 rules and regulations, the film industry has really picked up within the last month again. Right now, the movie that's here now is it's definitely the biggest I've seen since I've worked for the city. I'm not sure I can remember one, even just living here, that's been this size. So that
Rain Man would probably be the last one.
You say Rain Man, Robert?
Rain Man was done years ago here.
When that was here, did it feel like they were like all over the place, like everywhere?
Yes, they were.
I've always wondered what that experience was like, having a gigantic motion picture here in town.
Justin Hoffman was real good about walking down the streets, going to local stores. He was real popular, and he talked to people. Not all of those did, but he did. It was a neat experience.
That's cool. I know with the movie that's being filmed now, they're kind of in their quarantined film production bubble. But even though that's the case, I've seen people taking pictures, like selfies with folks who escaped the bubble. I'm not sure whether that's against the rules or not for people who were involved in the film, but I won't tell anybody. No one's going to see this Zoom meeting. So just kidding, they are. But the film industry does bring people who aren't Guthrie folks to Guthrie. And then even after this movie is done, we've been working with 2 or 3 different films this fall on finding locations in and around Guthrie. And then literally just a few minutes before we started our Zoom meeting here, I was talking with another director, producer about a couple of films in the springtime. And it's funny how some of the smaller films can bring in more money to the community than some of the bigger films sometimes, because they have
More shopping, Stuart. More shopping.
I don't know who that was, but I've lost my train of thought. But movies are good. That's my general comment about movies. And then learning how that works with the long-term rentals with the bed and breakfast, that's interesting too. So the smaller films that may not be here for 30 days or more, that might even have like a bigger impact on, you know, revenues and that kind of stuff. But even as the current movie was kind of ramping up for production, one day one of the antique shop owners stopped in and said that somebody from the movie had come in and bought like, I think $300 worth of stuff just to like add to some decorations to one of the set pieces. So movies, they spend an awful lot of money on like lodging, and with the shops, especially the period movies that need different antiques and things, those have a pretty big impact locally. Any questions about movies? Kristen's laughing at me. I don't know why she's laughing at me.
You just get so excited about movies. It's sweet.
Well, thanks for thinking that. But it really, over the past year or so, it's really become more of like that. There are times when it seems like that's all we do. With tourism stuff is trying to figure out movie logistics. Let's see. One of the cool things that's happening, it just started happening. I mentioned how the Territorial Christmas Foundation isn't doing their kind of big traditional events. The mayor is laughing at me. Are you laughing at me? He's like, yeah. The city manager, Leroy, had a great idea, went back a few weeks ago, about doing a shop local campaign, to where, you know, so many of our shops depend on those tourism dollars for folks coming in for different Christmas events. Like, it makes their whole year for some of the folks. And so Leroy had a great idea for a shop local raffle. So shop local and win is what it's called. So every business, mostly downtown and some of the businesses outside of the downtown shopping sphere, if you spend every $20 that you spend, you can fill out a raffle ticket and enter for a prize drawing. And so we've gotten a lot of great response for that. From that, Verla has been working tirelessly on getting local businesses information and raffle tickets. Shonda Price, who is the economic development director, she's been working more and more with tourism type stuff too. And so she's been really helpful with getting that organized and going. The Christmas Committee, Territorial Christmas Foundation, in partnership with the city, has been really getting that ramped up. So it's going to be going on until December. So it's just one way of trying to encourage folks to shop at our downtown retail spots, restaurants, those kind of things.
What is the prize? Is it cash dollars or what?
It is just cash dollars. So there's a grand prize.
Make sure it's Guthrie dollars, not regular US dollars, because people will go out of town. I've been through this before.
Wait, to say that again, I don't understand what you mean.
You need to create what you call Guthrie dollars. It could be $500 but they can only be spent at the merchants in Guthrie. They can't go down to Edmond and spend it there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've been through this before.
Yeah.
You give away cash and they might spend it here and they might not, but if you have Guthrie dollars, they got to spend it with the merchants that sponsor.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Cool.
Well, they made it a cash prize that I understand because of hard times. You know, that it's a reward for shopping here. You know, they don't have to buy anything or chip in. It's a reward for spending that amount.
Well, if the grocery stores will accept it and turn it in, they can still buy groceries with it, but it's spent in Guthrie. You give hard cash, they're liable to go down to Edmond or Oklahoma City or Stillwater. Not everybody, but it happens. I'll tell you, I've been through this. Not only here in Guthrie, but in other communities that I've been involved with. I would recommend using Guthrie dollars. They can get everybody to spend them here, regardless of what they're buying.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Interesting. Let's see.
I was thinking it was part of the discussion about how do we tell people where to shop, but they're shopping here to even be in the drawing, and we're already getting stories of how they go back and buy some more because that'll make it so that they can get more tickets. So we've had merchants.
My 2 cents worth in from my experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never done it before, but I'm just telling you what things that were discussed. There's pretty good enthusiasm with the merchants, so I'm glad about that.
Yeah, Verla's gotten some good feedback from folks where, somebody will spend enough money to get one raffle ticket, but then they're $5 short of getting, being able to sign like a second ticket. So they go back and shopping more and end up with a whole.
Great. I'm just saying about the prize money, not the incentive to do it.
I mentioned how Shonda, with the economic development side of things, has been able to, she's working more with us on tourism stuff. And so she's been working on a film industry website so we can have all the film resources here locally. Prospective filmmakers can come to that website and see how everything that Guthrie has to offer for filmmaking. So Shonda's been working on that, as well as she's going to start working on going back to a meeting we had however long ago about email newsletter. Shauna's going to be able to start working on that part of things with myself and with Verla. There's not enough time to be able to do all the stuff that we want to do with tourism, but luckily we're going to be able to pull Shonda in to help work on some of that stuff. And let's see. In terms of events that have been happening, the Guthrie Road Show last weekend, which is a big annual car show down at Mineral Wells, it ended up being one of the biggest they've ever had. Mineral Wells was about as packed as it could possibly be with cars and people. I think that for the way that the park was still under construction a little bit, I think next year they could probably fit some more cars down there. But for the current state of things, which was still pretty good, it was absolutely packed. And let's see, Red Brick Nights, even though none of the monthly Red Brick Nights events could happen this year, Prairie Wolf Distillery is sponsoring a Red Brick Nights evening at the drive-in theater at the Beacon. And so there'll be music, live music and a movie. They're going to be playing Grease that evening. And so it's going to be pretty cool. There's going to be live music to start the evening. I think trying to figure out how to put the bands on top of the concession stand, which is probably like an OSHA nightmare, but don't tell anybody. And then the movie afterwards. And then kind of encouraging folks, like before you head out to the Beacon, cruise through downtown Guthrie, kind of like how everybody used to cruise through downtown, like every weekend. So it's kind of a bit of a throwback evening with the Grease movie, cruising downtown, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a yeah, Dragon Main Street. So yeah. Oh yes, I do have my Prairie Wolf Distillery hat on. Let's see. What else has been going on?
Did you say that was at the Beacon that they're doing it? When do they do that?
That's going to be October 10th, right? Is that right? October 10th. Yes. Rilla's giving me the thumbs up. So I think the last thing that I have on my bullet list of stuff to jibber jabber about was the fact that even though hotel and motel revenue has been down for the year, sales tax for this year in Guthrie has been fantastic. Sales tax is up pretty significantly over the previous year. And I think a lot of people have since they haven't traveled as much this year, they've been at home more, they've shopped more locally, and so sales tax has been super healthy for Guthrie and for other central Oklahoma communities too. So the restaurants and the downtown retail folks have got a really great shot in the arm from some of the Lazy E events that happened this year, especially some of the events that kind of Lazy E was able to bring in maybe for just the 1 year. They're trying to secure those events going forward, but that's just a negotiation that Lazy E is working on. Hopefully they can land those events long term. They've been some pretty gigantic activities and events from other states that have come here just for this one time. But hopefully that they can come back. But, okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Verla, do you have other? Hey, don't. Verla's acting surprised that I'm not going to talk anymore. Verla, do you have any other staff comments that you want to make?
I think you're doing very well. I've got lawnmowers in my background, so I'm keep muting it.
Okay, cool. So anyway, last thing I'll say is that like all through the pandemic stuff, I do want to brag on how hard like Verla has done like incredible stuff, just working with like reaching out to different retailers, hotel folks. Aaron has done just mind-bending stuff on the video side of things. We've been able to do some things like virtual tours of historic stuff downtown, virtual tours of murals, just stuff, anything we can do to keep Guthrie in front of people's eyeballs when things aren't necessarily happening has been kind of a priority. So big time high fives to Aaron and Verla. And Shonda's been doing awesome stuff too, helping out with different things. So I'm gonna stop talking, and Kristen, back to you as the chairperson.
Okay, that was a lovely round of staff comments. Do we have any additional board comments? No?
I do like Kristen's idea for that Guthrie holiday gift guide.
I didn't see that. What was that? Kristen, talk about holiday gift guide.
Oh, you were just talking about ways to encourage people to shop in Guthrie, and I was like, we should have a gift guide, some kind, like gifts for your grandma or your mom, or different occasions, and like I don't know, think of crafty ways to incorporate local businesses, whether it's like gift cards to certain places or actual items. Be fun.
I like that. Yeah.
Could be kind of like a catalog, like you used to get the Sears catalog, but it could be like the Guthrie catalog, and everybody circles what they want and then they go buy it. That was always our hope as kids.
Right.
Mom didn't do that though.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, it could be like a blog post.
Sure. Yeah. or even like maybe even like a video series where someone is kind of like going into different like retail saying and showing what you can buy at different spots.
Oh my gosh, that would be cute. It'd be like a little I forget that little show name where they do that in a bunch of different stores and restaurants. That'd be so cute. I like it. Add it to the list.
Right.
Things you could do.
Added. What other board comments? Anybody? Bob?
I think, I'm not bored.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Justin needs he needs to lead an in-town bike ride like he used to and do the costumes that somebody suggested, Kristen or Rebecca.
That was Rebecca.
We did it a few years ago. We can do it again, Justin.
Oh,
Oops.
ring ring.
Hey, Justin, do you just do gravel or do you do any road bikes stuff?
Like me personally?
Well, I don't know, or the groups, or are the groups that ride here in town all gravel?
For the most part, in the last couple of years, I think it's been mostly the gravel riding. There are a few that do more of the road cycling stuff. It's like the Edmond bike community leans a little more into the pavement, like road stuff. Josh, have you seen the like in terms of like roadies out and about?
On Saturdays, sometimes I'll see them at Hoboken. Some road guys who will come up from Edmond or Oklahoma City, 2 to 5 of them at a time. But no, on average, it seems like most of the people who are attracted to ride around Guthrie are doing it because they want to get off the pavement.
I ride quite a bit on the road, and Guthrie's, it's okay, yeah, but there's not just awesome road paths. So if one of you wants to let me borrow a gravel bike, I'll come ride with you.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yes. I'm adding that to my list.
Add it to your find Mike a bike.
Yep.
Hey, Mike, there's some congratulations in order to you, isn't there, sir?
Well, yes. Congratulations to me and sympathies to her.
Yeah. Well, good for you, buddy.
Well, thank you.
He's engaged, correct?
Yes. For people who didn't know, sorry.
Yeah. That probably sounded really weird for people.
I was like,
it really did. He's not expecting.
And meeting adjourned.
You gotta look at his Facebook. That's all.
Okay. Also, Mike, I like your dog.
Oh yeah, she just hangs out, and then if I pet her and I stop, I get this.
That's my.
She's very aggressive.
Horrible.
She looks vicious.
Any other board comments from anybody? I'm flipping through the chat group, just make sure we didn't. Okay. I think we're through all any of the chat group questions.
I think we're good. I have to admit, I haven't done this in 8 months, so I don't remember. Do we vote on ending the meeting, or I just tell you it's over?
We just adjourn.
I think that Robert
You can adjourn without objection, and that does it.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Bob is our parliamentarian.
I like that.
For real.
Visitors Bureau Board. So,
Oh, can I add one thing?
yeah.
No, we're already adjourned.
That's it.
We called it 6:26.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just tell y'all that I'm just going to add all of your emails to my list of what I send out to the businesses and hotels of things happening this month in Guthrie, so you know what I send to them, and that way you can put on your calendar when you see something that's coming up.
Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, Rilla has a list of business owners.
Keeps growing.
Yeah, just to keep them aware of like, hey, this is happening this weekend. If you want to schedule, appropriate wait staff or whatever. So that's super helpful just to know, even like if it's like small stuff, it's good to know kind of what's happening in Guthrie in the upcoming few weeks. So.
Nice.
I'll send it tomorrow.
Cool. All right. From the staff side of things, I want to tell you guys all thanks for being part of the Convention and Visitors Bureau board. I appreciate all you guys, and thanks also for being part of our Zoom community this evening. This is so awkward. Yeah,
Everybody do this.
yeah. I apologize.
Reach for your camera. All righty.
Kristen, you can adjourn us if you want.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were already adjourned. I am adjourning this meeting.